Well, hello boys and girls. This is a very good day. Today we have a new model to look at from Anomaly Drones, and this one is called a Stryder. And I'm really excited about this model. You guys may remember that Anomaly Drones produced a model called the Dragon, which was the subject of my previous reviews, and that was a really cool machine, and this is also a really cool machine, and this is a slightly different purpose in mind. This is more of a racing style quad type layout. It's more of the standard sort of X-frame design with the upper and lower plate, which is not as much of a departure from the typical quadcopter layout than the Dragon was. You may remember the Dragon. This is the Dragon with the really cool aerodynamic canopy and all that fun stuff. The Stryder is a little bit more of a quote-unquote normal design, which has some very interesting elements incorporated into it. Again, it's designed for the ProSight suite from Amimon, and it has some features that are specifically built around that system. But it also incorporates some interesting ideas from other quadcopter designs, as well as some fresh ideas from Anomaly Drones themselves. Now, one of my favorite models is still the Impulse RC Alien, and that has been a really good model for me, and I've used the ProSight in the Alien, but I have had a few struggles with it, and I'll talk about that really quick here. Here's my Alien, and one of the things that I've struggled with is the camera mount, and you can use the Amimon camera mount if you want here, and that's what I've been doing, and I just double side tape this in place, and that works well, except this thing can't hold the angle very well, so every time you have a hard landing it moves. And then, you can use a zip tie around there to hold it up, or you can put a piece of foam under there, or maybe you can even 3D print yourself something cool there. But the ProSight camera is a little bit wider than the original carbon fiber side plates will accommodate. And so it's just never really quite worked out perfectly. I'm a little bit of a stickler for detail, so those things kind of, they just kind of bother me. It works, but it's not ideal. The other thing was I had to move these two standoffs back to accommodate the ProSight transmitter. And again, not a huge deal. I mean, you can see the old standoff locations right here. It works, but it is going to make the frame a little bit weaker. You can see I've moved the holes from an area where there's a little bit more carbon surrounding the holes to an area where there's a little bit less carbon surrounding the holes. And I haven't had a problem in a crash, but technically it's not doing me any favors there. And the Alien has a little bit more room inside than you need as well. If you look at here where the camera goes, again I can put the camera in there to show you, it just has a lot of room in the front. I mean, look, the camera could be all the way back here, right? But it's got a lot of room in the front. I mean, that's good, I guess, for some platforms, and it allows those carbon plates to fit in there in the stock configuration, but here it's just kind of longer than it needs to be. And even in the back, I've got this tiny little XSR receiver sitting back here in all this space. And if you look at it with the top plate on, get the top plate here, we can see there's a lot of room in this frame. Not that there's anything wrong with that. It doesn't really hurt anything. It may be adding a little bit of weight, but it doesn't really hurt anything really. But again, it's just not the cleanest solution that I've found. And so with the Stryder, this has been designed specifically for the ProSight suite. And one of the things that's nice is it has the nice little Ninja Tech Cheetah rubberized 3D printed mount here for the camera. And it can flex, and it allows the camera to, have a little bit of vibration damping there. This upper portion here is designed to house the ProSight transmitter, and it doesn't require any additional fasteners to hold it, and you'll see that in a minute. And it even has a flexible antenna mount for the rear. So the antenna just slides right in, kind of like it would in the original ProSight antenna mount. Slides in there, and it provides the flexibility for the antenna, so if the quadcopter lands on its top, this can push down and the antenna can kind of lay almost flat. And so it protects the antenna in a similar fashion to the original rubber mount does, but it's mounted a little bit lower. So your antenna elements are still above, basically still above the top plate, but it's hunkered down a little bit more. And the nice thing is you're not losing any range. Now I've tried a few different configurations of antennas, and for me, for what I like to do, I do more freestyle flying than racing, and for me, I really prefer to have as much range as I can. I like to just cruise along sometimes, and you know, fly some distance. You know, I'm not always racing around a small area through some gates. So I like to explore the range a little bit. Now, some of the other interesting details about the Stryder. Look at this bottom plate. This is 5 millimeters thick. That thickness allows very slim arms, so you're not losing a lot of your down thrust from your propellers by having a really wide arm. And of course, check out the ESC mounts. This is a concept that we see on the Impulse RC Helix. And I have the version of the mount that's tall enough to fit even the KISS ESCs, which are quite wide. There's a smaller version of this that can be used for the more compact ESCs. And as you can see here, this is a much more compact design. Here's the top plate from the Alien. You can see this is quite a bit shorter. This top plate on here is also reinforced with a triangulated carbon side plate that just fits right into these slots in the top and bottom of the frame. So you can imagine if you take an impact on the top here, and by the way, this top plate is 3 millimeters thick. If you take an impact to the top here, you're not going to collapse that top piece. This is going to be very strong, and not just as strong as the standoffs that support it. A couple other nice little details. We do have holes here for the receiver antennas, so you can mount them. They don't have to be done with zip ties. A lot of people do the zip tie, and I've done that on my Alien here. Just got zip ties supporting your receiver wires. It works, but you know, it's something that could be built in, and so that's what Anomaly Drones has done here, is they've kind of integrated all the different solutions that you need to build a very clean build. And you can use a very small PDB in here. The wires from the motors pass through this hole, go through your ESCs underneath, pop out of this hole, and then just snake right in here into your PDB, so it's very clean. And finally, the arms are, if you might notice, they're pretty long. Why is that? Well, this can accommodate up to 6-inch props. Now, you may have watched some videos where you've seen the guys talking about, you know, the Rotor Riot guys, talking about a butter quad. Well, the butter quad is a 5-inch Alien with 6-inch arms and runs 6-inch props. And there's maybe a little bit of a resurgence in interest in running a 6-inch prop. You know, they do have better efficiency than 5-inch props generally. A 6-inch 2-blade can provide a lot of thrust with a little bit less current draw than a 5-inch prop. And the reaction times might not be quite as fast as a 5-inch prop, and so for racing maybe 6 inches isn't the greatest thing. But we're talking about freestyle here, right? This is a machine that could do both. So in my case, I like to do freestyle flying, and so this is going to be exciting for me. I'm going to try 6-inch props on this, 2-bladed 6-inch props, and I'm going to see if I can get a little bit more flight time and maintain the same level of speed that I'm used to with the 5-inch props. And according to the data that I'm looking at on Mini Quad Test Bench, it looks like it should be possible. So I think this is going to be a really exciting model to build and fly. I think the build's going to go very quickly because a lot of the accommodations are already made, and we'll go through the build next after this video. Now, before I wrap this video up, I do kind of want to show you a little bit about how this ProSight transmitter fits into this frame. This is really cool. So let me take off this top plate so I can show you what I'm talking about. You can see again the slots that support the side plates locking it into the top plate. Imagine the strength that you get out of that, and stiffness. They just pop out. They just sit in their little grooves, nice and neat, and clever. So the transmitter sits connector side down, that is the RF connector side down, in these little pockets that are designed for it. I'll take this completely out so I can show you how this snaps in. And by the way you saw this in the first part of the video, or as I introduced the video, that's how it comes. It comes sort of pre-assembled, so you know all the parts are going to fit together. The fit check has already been done by Anomaly Drones and sent to you pretty much completed. All you need to do is pop out the necessary parts and put in your systems. So here we have the mount for the ProSight transmitter, and check this out. Let's snake the wire in there. Fits into these little cavities. And again, the Ninja Tech Cheetah material is flexible, so you can just bend this out if you want. I suppose you could take it completely apart, but you don't need to. And look at that. It just fits in there like that. And it's well protected in a crash, which is nice with the ProSight, right? Because it's not cheap. And there's your antenna mount right here. So you just coil up your extra antenna wire here and run it right back here to the antenna mount. And right here's your little shelf for your receiver. And then your PDB and flight controller are sitting kind of right here. The camera mount's pretty self-explanatory. It's provided with little screws here that are actually plastic screws or nylon screws, which is nice because if the camera takes an impact for whatever reason, and it is pretty well protected, by the way, by the top plate. Notice how the top plate has some extensions on it. It's a nice touch. But if the camera does get hit by something, those little plastic screws will snap and allow the camera to move back and hopefully avoid some damage. Pretty cool, right? So this concludes the first video for the Stryder. I'm going to do a 3-part video series again, this being the sort of first look, partial review, overview video, and then I'll do a build video, and if it becomes too detailed or long, I'll split the build video into 2 parts like I did with the Dragon. And then I'll do some flight video afterward just to show me kind of flying around. I'll get some footage of this thing flying by at high speed and get some low speed footage of it taking off and doing cool stuff like that. So stay tuned. Thanks for watching.